Hello everyone, and welcome back to this channel. I hope that you're all doing well. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Miranda, and on this channel I do tutorials, sewing tutorials, which are also beginner friendly. So let us get into this tutorial for today. We'll be learning how to make this kimono cut top, blouse, jacket with some ruching effect on the waistline. Okay, it's a very simple blouse to do, and let's get into it. So here you can see that I've gone on to draw some lines. I hope that you can see that. So the first line is my shoulder line, and then I placed my upper chest line. So my actual armhole measurement is 16 divided by 2 is 8. So I would normally put my upper chest line here. Okay, I would normally place it here this way. Okay, so this would be my normal upper chest line, or my armhole line. But since we're going to be cutting this as a kimono kind of cut, we need to drop your armhole measurement or your armhole line so that your hand can move freely when you're wearing it. Okay, so we have shoulder line, upper chest line, my waistline, and then my hip line, and this is my length. So the length of the blouse is 27 inches plus 1 inch folding or sewing allowance. Okay, so let's go ahead and place the measurements. So on the shoulder line, we're going to be placing our shoulder to shoulder measurement or a cross back measurement. Mine is 16. We divide that by 2 is 8, so we have our 8 inches there. From these 8 inches, you need to determine how long you want your sleeve to be. So I'm going to be adding 10 inches for mine. Okay, and from that, let's also mark the neck width. Okay, I'm going to be marking mine at, let me bring this closer. I'm going to be marking my neck width at 3.5. Okay, and then I'm going to go down by 1.5 inch for the back. So we are drafting the back to start with. Okay, so this will be our back neckline. Okay, and then at the end of the sleeve there, I'm going to go down by 1 inch to create our shoulder slant. Okay, we have our shoulder slant there, and then we're just going to be joining this point to our upper chest line, the one that we've dropped. Okay, so I've dropped mine to 10 inches from the shoulder line. So this will be where our sleeve opening will be. Okay, so you're going to be joining it that way. Okay, so after joining the sleeve opening line to the upper chest line, we're going to be placing our bust measurement on the upper chest line. Remember that we've dropped our upper chest line to 2 inches below. Okay, just to allow for easy movement of your arm. So my bust measurement is 37. 37 divided by 4 gives you about 9.25. Okay, and I'm going to add some ease. I'll add 3/4, 0.75 for ease. If you want, you can leave it at 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's just my ease, 3/4 plus 1 inch sewing allowance, because I want it to be free. Okay, you want it to be free, then you're going to come and place your your waist measurement. Again, because we want to create that ruching effect, we're going to take our hip measurement, we're going to place it at the waist, and we're also going to place the same measurement at the hip. So my hip measurement is 42 inches. 42 divided by 5 divided by 4 rather. Okay, it's 42 divided by 4 gives you 10.5. okay, 10.5, and you add ease, so you can add what you added here so that it's uniform. So I added 3/4 of ease. You can add half if you wish, you can add 1, so it depends on how ruched you want it to be. Okay, and then plus 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so it's 1/4 of your hip measurement plus your ease, which can be half, it can be 3/4 like mine, and then plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So we're just going to take this same measurement to the hip and to the hemline. So we have 12 and 3/4. So we're going to bring that here at the hip, okay, and 12 and 3/4, and you bring it there. And the next thing is you're just going to join. You can use your hand, you can curve it, okay. Okay, so I'm just creating a curve there. Okay, so this is what we have for our back. Okay, this is it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and we are going to use this to cut the front piece. Okay, so remember to add half inch sewing allowance on the sides, because we only added it to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to cut this. I just wanted to show you that this is placed on fold. Okay, if you want, you can fold your fabric into 4 and you cut at once the back and the front, but I separated mine. I separated mine, and we're going to be using this piece to cut the front piece. Okay, I'm going to leave about half inch sewing allowance to the side. Okay, so the length of my kimono is 27 inches. You can make yours as long as you wish, or shorter even if you wish. Okay, let me just remove this piece. I'm also going to leave half inch by the shoulder line. Okay, so this is what our back piece looks like. Okay, we're now going to use this to cut the front. All right, so I've gone on to cut the back, and I've placed the back piece on the piece of fabric, you can see. Okay, so I've also left a half inch allowance for us to get sewing allowance when we cut the front piece. Okay, so now before we cut the front, I just want to mark the shoulder width point. our front is going to have an opening, okay? And also you need to determine where or how deep your V should be, because this is going to have like a V neckline, okay? So I'm going to mark it at 15 inches. That's how I want my V to drop. So I'll be connecting that, and then we're going to go ahead and cut this, okay? So since we've already placed them, we've already included the sewing allowances, it's just cutting and making the neckline, okay? If you want, you can pin your fabric so that it doesn't move, okay? Okay, so here we want to create our V neckline, okay? Just going to fold this and just reconfirm, because I want it to be, yes, so it's there. So I want my V to drop about 15 inches deep. You can make yours shorter, of course. Okay, so as we cut, I just want to leave half-inch sewing allowance or so, because we need to turn this with a facing. If you're not lining it, you have to turn it with a facing, okay? Then I can remove the back, and I'm just going to go ahead now and split the front, and this is the half-inch we left for. Okay, let me just remove these pieces here. Okay, so we have our front piece, or pieces, because they're two, okay? These are two pieces, so it should be lying like this, okay? More or less. When you open, you should have something that looks like this, okay? So we have our front pieces, and we have our back piece. So now we're going to be cutting the facing, okay? We're going to be cutting the facing before we start the sewing. So I want to go ahead and cut the we want to cut the facing for the front. So I'm just putting together two pieces here. I have to economize this fabric because I only had 2 meters of this. Okay, so I have 2 pieces here, okay, just to cut the facing for the front. So you take your front piece and place it on that piece of fabric and trace out the front. Trace out the front. I hope you can see a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now I want to cut the facing for the front, so I'm having to economize this fabric. Remember I told you it was only 2 meters that I had. So what I've done is I've placed the front pieces on top of this 2 strips of fabric. There are 2 here, so that I can cut for both sides at the same time. Just want to arrange that. Okay, so we're placing it there, and we're going to just trace out that front. Because you want this to be the same as the front piece, and then there you just decide the length of your. Okay, so I'm just going to remove that, and let's see if I can get 4 inches, just about. Okay, so we're going to have a width of about 4 inches. Okay, so you just join those points, and then you just cut, and then you just cut it. After cutting, you just also need to finish off the edges, the raw edges, either with your serger or with your zigzag stitch. Okay, or you can use even a bias binding. The different ways you can use inking shears. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and cut this off, and then we're also going to cut a facing for the back. And also we'll need to cut the strip to insert. If you don't want to use a facing, you can go ahead and line it. So our facing for the front, is done, and now we want to cut the facing for the back. Trying to see if this can be enough. Let me get a bigger piece. It has to be on fold. Okay, so you just again place your back piece on that piece of fabric that you are using to cut your facing. Okay, you can go on to cut it. Just follow how exactly you cut the back piece, or the back pieces. It's only one piece. Okay, so you have the shape. You can remove this, and you can decide how long you want your folding to be, but I would rather go with 4 inches because that's what I've used for the front piece. So I'm just going to measure 4 inches round, and I'm going to cut it. Okay, if you wish, you can also just leave it as a square. I'm going to make mine kind of circular. Okay, and then you're just going to go ahead and cut. After cutting, you also need to finish off the edge of this. Okay, so you will have something looking like this, okay, which should fit on your neckline. Okay, if there are no mistakes, it should fit on your neckline perfectly like that. Okay, so the next thing is to finish off the edges of this facing. I'm going to go around also and finish off the edges of the front piece before we start sewing everything together. Okay, so I've gone on to finish off the edges of the facing. Let's remove that for now. So I've gone on to finish off. I just used the zigzag stitch to finish off the edges of both. These are the front pieces. Okay, these are the front pieces. Just want to cut this thread here. Okay, so this would be for the front pieces, and then we've also gone on to finish the back piece. I'm going to finish it off also. You can see I just use a zigzag stitch. So the next thing is I'm going to place right sides together, and then we're just going to go and stitch with 1/2 inch, stitch with 1/2 inch, and then we are going to be attaching it to the main pieces. And then for the main pieces, this is the back. Okay, we want to place, yeah, we want to join the shoulders. So I'm going to be placing them this way. I'm going to place right sides facing. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch, joining them at the shoulder. Okay, place them like that, and then we're going to be joining at the shoulder before I join the facing. Okay, so front pieces, rather the right pieces, will be facing each other, and then I'm going to be joining them at the shoulder. Okay, and I'm also going to do the same thing with this one. Place it right sides facing, and then we're going to be joining at the shoulder. After that, I'm going to now attach the lining, but I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I've gone on to attach the front pieces to the back piece by joining them on the shoulder. You can see I've gone on to stitch on the shoulder, and I've also just used a zigzag stitch to lock the edges. If you've got a serger, you can go ahead and just use that. Okay, so I've joined both sides on the shoulder, and on the other side I've also gone on to join the sides using that 1 inch that we left. On the sides, I've also just used a zigzag stitch to overlock all the way, and I've done the same on the other side, joined the side seams and locked. So now we're just going to attach the facing, and after attaching the facing, we're going to just turn this to the right side, okay, and you're going to do a fold on the sleeve, okay. So just removing that seam, you're just going to fold once, fold again, and then stitch around on both sides and on the hemline, okay. So those are the only 2 things that are left. So now we're going to attach the facing. So what I've done is I've also gone on to sew the facing, the back to the front facing. So this is how it looks like. So front sides should be facing each other, okay. I overlocked the edges of the back facing and the front facing, both pieces, and then I went on to join them at the shoulder like this, okay. So I just use 1/2 inch to join the front to the back, and we want to place this. So just place it again, open it, place it front sides facing. So I went on to notch the center of the main piece, and I also notched the facing here. And then the next thing is I'm just going to pin it all the way. Okay, I'm just getting my pins. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it all the way through. So make sure that your joinings match, okay. This seam, the joining of this seam and the seam of the main piece should be aligned. That's another way of you checking that you have cut properly and there's no problem. So just pin it all the way like this, all the way down. You're going to pin all the way down, and then you're just going to stitch with 1/2 inch, and then you're going to do the same on the other side. Make sure you pin okay. You want to make sure that the edges of the facing and the edges of the main piece align. So you're going to go ahead and just pin the facing all the way down. Like that. And I'm just going to chop off this excess here. I have some excess on the facing. If you Well, we've gone on to attach the facing. So this is the facing here. Attached it all the way to the other. Okay, so after attaching it, I've attached it all the way. That's the facing. It's been attached all the way up to the other side. You can see that. So after that, I just went on to clip off the excesses on the inside, and I also went on to create notches along the curves, so that when you fold over your, I've already notched on the shoulder neckline, so that when you fold over the facing, it should be able to sit properly. Okay, so notch very close to your stitch but not through your stitch. So I notched all the way down. The next thing is I'm just quickly going to give it a press. Okay, I'm going to give it a press. So this is how it should sit. You're going to be pressing this in. Okay, press it nicely so that your facing will be on the inside like that, all the way down. And then if you want, you can do a top stitch. You push your excess to the facing and you make a top stitch on the facing. Okay, otherwise you can just press it so that it goes in and stays in nicely. After that, I'm going to go ahead and fold the bottom part. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and fold the bottom part like this. So it's just like 2 folds of half inch. So you're taking in 1 inch. Remember, we left 1 inch at the bottom for folding. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we are going to be adding the channel for the drawstring on the waist area. Okay, so we're now going to create the channel for our strip. Okay, so I've gone on to draw this line. It's about 16 inches or so from the shoulder line. Okay, so this is where I want my channel to be. So what I'm going to do is I've created this strip. Okay, let me do this so that you can see. Okay, so this strip measures 1.5 inch, and then I folded in half inch, and I've also gone to fold the edge. You see, I've gone on to fold another half inch, and we're going to be placing it on this line in order to form our channel. Okay, so I've drawn this line all the way up to the back, okay, so that it's easy. It's just serving as a guide. So what I'm going to do is to place the edge of this folded edge. I'm going to place it by the edge there, and I'll make sure that the line is in the middle of this strap. Okay, let it come by the edge. I'm going to pin it down just to keep it in place. I'm going to be pinning it all the way down to keep it in place, and then I'm going to be top stitching on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to hold it down and pass it all the way around. I'm going to be top stitching, okay, very close to the edge, so that our strip will be able to pass through. So I've gone on to create my strip. This is the strip we're going to be feeding into the channel in order to create the ruching. So I'm just going to go and top stitch. I think this is going over, so it should just be by the edge like that. Yeah, so I'm going to be top stitching on both sides. So I'll go and stitch on the top side first, and then come and stitch by the edge there all the way around, and then I'm going to be feeding in the strip to create our ruching. Okay, Okay, so we've gone on to attach the channel. You can see let me kind of zoom this. Okay, so I've gone on to draw the to attach the channel. This is where we're going to be passing our string. So I'm just going to do this using a pin, and you just feed it into the channel. Okay, we're going to feed it into the channel in order for us to create those ruchings. Okay, so let me just do this. Okay, so we're just going to push in them. I'm just going to tie the ends here. So you just have to arrange the gathers and make sure that they are even throughout, and your blouse is done. Yeah, so just arrange the gathers, make sure they're even. And that's it. So you should have your blouse looking something like this. Okay, you can gather it more. You can hear the birds outside chirping. So you have something like this. Okay, this is our blouse. It's ready, and yeah, I'm gonna try it on for you guys so you can see how it looks like when I'm wearing it. Okay, okay, so this is your kimono cut blouse with ruchings on your waistline. Okay, thank you very much for watching this tutorial until the end. I hope that you'll be able to recreate your own. Tag us on our social media platforms, and I'll see you in our next tutorial. Bye.